Hey friends, Jamie here. In my previous video, I showed you exactly step by step how I got to my first $100,000. And $100,000 feels amazing until you realize it's not enough to quit your job anytime soon. And here's the unfortunate statistical fact. Most people, if they either save up $100,000 or they somehow come into $100,000 in a weird way, they blow it. They don't invest it. They don't take it to the next level. I'll never forget when I got there and I was like, woohoo. And I started doing some actual math and I was like, man, I need 10 times more than this to actually quit my job and be truly financially comfortable. So here's the revelation. $100,000 will not get you to financial independence, but you need to use it as a springboard or launching pad to get you to financial independence. And from this point, completely change your approach. As a quick reminder, all my videos are for educational and entertainment purposes only. I'm not a professional financial advisor. This is not financial advice. Hire one of those if you need one. In the next 15 minutes, I will reveal to you the exact 5-step system I use to go from $100,000 saved to true financial independence. Let's get into it. Now, I'm going to warn you that a lot of stuff I'm going to tell you in this video that worked for me, I have the bank accounts to prove it, goes against everything that safe investors will tell you to do. So I want to read for you my notes, what I'm calling the $100,000 reality check. Here we go. I met my first $100,000 saved milestone moment in 2017. And this is when I finally hit my 100K and I felt like I've made it. But here's the sobering calculation. $100,000 invested conservatively only generates about $4,000 a year in passive income. Obviously not enough. I knew to achieve my financial independence goal that I needed enough invested assets to generate somewhere around $60,000 a year passively. This is money that I earn while I sleep, while I travel, while I play video games, while I watch Netflix. So here's the math. That meant I needed roughly $1.5 million invested to pull this off if you follow the 4% rule. And I knew that my current strategy without investing, even though I'd done pretty good so far, was going to take me 30 or more plus years to get there. And I don't even think I'm going to live another 30 years. I'm 54 years old. So here's where I had to make the hard decision after my first 100K. I had to shift from wealth preservation mode, which was awesome to get me to my first 100K, but I need to do something different. I need to find the magic formula for wealth acceleration mode moving forward from this point. So here's the steps on how I pulled this off. Step 1, I had to figure out how to dramatically increase my income. So how do you increase your income? I actually tripled my income in about 2 or 3 years. So what I did was this strategy system. I was like, okay, what jobs are in demand in the future? Okay. I knew UX design was in demand from my internet research because that was the backbone of how modern apps and websites were made. 2, I was like, what pays triple of what I'm making? UX designer, check the box for that too. And 3, what is something that I already have a good solid foundation for that I can move into with ease? I mean, you have to be built for the job, right? Like brain surgeons also make really good money, but I would never be a brain surgeon in my lifetime. So this was something that was realistic for me to do, and I just like went for it all the way. So I went and got a master's in this field, and I wasn't even done with my master's degree before I got hired in the field. That is how I went from $50,000 to $150,000 a year within about 3 years. The second key step I had to do now that I was making some real money is figure out what to do with it. So I wasn't just going to let it pile up in my checking account like a lot of people do, because that's not going to earn me any interest. I knew that even if I did that, even with my really good new pay, it was still going to project about 20 years just building up the cash to get to a point where I would have enough to retire and be financially independent. I need to accelerate that even more. And that's what I did, which leads me to step 2. I had to learn how to master strategic investing. So when you hear people say, oh, I just don't know how to do that, I want you to ask them, or ask yourself, ask the universe, yes, but why don't you know how to do that? Well, here's the answer. Because you didn't teach yourself how to do it. Same with me in investing. I didn't know anything about it. I had to teach myself how to invest. And for this part, I'm going to break it down to this stage as just simple the act of how did I teach myself to invest. let me simplify it to just how the stock market works. So what is a stock? To simplify it greatly down for you, it's basically a teeny tiny sliver of ownership in a company. So when I buy one share of Apple, I have a teeny tiny sliver of Apple. It's a lot like Shark Tank. So when you watch Shark Tank, those people go in there and they have a company already going, right? You've got guys like Mark Cuban in there and they have to decide, do I want to invest in this company or not? And if Mark Cuban gives them like $100,000, he is expecting that this company is going to grow and that his $100,000 could double, triple, or even more. And they're very careful about who they invest in it. If it doesn't marry up by what they think it should do, then you know the phrase, I'm out. Well, the stock market is very similar. You buy a company, you have to analyze that company and you have to understand, is this something that I think is going to grow, that I can make my money back tenfold, maybe even like Mark Cuban would think? That's what you have to do. But how do you do that thing? Well, here's how I simplified it for myself. I had to ask myself, okay, you can't boil the ocean here. The economy in the United States is this big, complicated moving machine. There's a million moving parts. There's all these sectors, right? They call them sectors. A sector is something like technology, healthcare, green energy. There's like 8 of them or so. And I simply researched years ago before ChatGPT, I simply researched the sectors that I knew were predicted to grow the fastest. And that was technology. And now that we have ChatGPT, I asked it again to make this video. And let's see what it says for today in 2025. I asked it which sectors are likely to grow the fastest over the next 20 years. And here's what it said. Putting it all together, here are the sectors I expect to see the fastest growth over the next 2 decades, approximately in order. Number 1, information and technology, AI, cloud, data infrastructure, cybersecurity, etc. Okay. And then it goes down to healthcare and clean energy, and you can see all the different sectors. Now, at this point, what have I done? I took the whole ocean of the United States economy, which is a million different companies and many different sectors. Now that I've dramatically reduced my target zone, now it's just a matter of researching companies within that target zone, the technology sector. And another reason why I picked technology is because Warren Buffett says that you have to invest in something you understand. And I understand technology because I work in technology. I know what Apple does. I know what Microsoft does. And I know what AI does and the infrastructure and the technology and the things those companies need to work and function and grow. And I knew, just because I understood all this, that when AI came on the scene, it was going to require a dramatic amount of high speed computation power all day long. It's finding inquiries, it's computing those, and it just requires a tremendous amount of speed to do this. And that speed comes from semiconductors. So I knew that was going to happen. And then it didn't take a much more research after that to say, okay, now which semiconductors are projected to grow the fastest and have the best product in the market today? And that was another obvious answer. That was NVIDIA. Let's recap quickly. I didn't try to invest in random companies from any type of sector in the whole United States. I picked one sector, technology. And then within technology, I just picked companies that were in there that I saw from my research, that are powerful, strong companies with maybe a little bit of some that are up and comers as well. And then I understood the purpose and how these companies worked, at least at a basic level. That is the absolute opposite of someone reading Reddit, Wall Street Bets, or whatever, and they're just cherry picking everything from GameStop to some new medical technology that helps people lose weight, all the way to some flying car thing like Archer. How can they be experts in all of those sectors and even understand those? Well, they can't. And to what degree are they researching and understanding the roles of those companies in society at larger, at a larger scale? I don't see how it's possible. But here's the thing. You don't have to be an analyst yourself. You just need to analyze the analysts. And this is easier than ever these days with AI. I used to watch all these Yahoo financing channels and hear all the professional analysts. There's millions of them out there who dedicated their life to analyzing these companies. And I would just analyze the analysts. What are the analysts saying are the most profitable companies that are projected to grow the most over the next decade? Today, you can just put in ChatGPT and you could say something like, in the technology sector, which I already know is one of the fastest growing sectors of the next 25 years, which companies are projected by human analysts to grow the fastest during that time? And it'll give you an answer. And then you just have to get over the fear of buying some stocks. Now, the other part about the stock market you have to understand, what makes a stock go up and down? That is, if a lot of humans are buying the stock, it goes up. If humans are selling the stock like crazy, it goes down. The other factor that makes the stock market go up or down is the actual health of the company. So let's use one company as an example, Apple. So if you invested in Apple 20 years ago, you'd probably be a multi millionaire. Okay. But along that time, two things were happening at play to get Apple from where it was, which is this teeny tiny little company that was like $1 a share, to whatever it is a share today. Over that time, two things are happening. Humans are buying it or they're selling it. They're buying it or they're selling it. And over time, when it became a very big, well-known, popular company where almost everyone knew what Apple was, the stock was up there significantly because the humans buying the stock were like, look, this company is ramping up. It's disrupting the tech market. They're making great things. Their sales are great. I'm going to buy something. I'm just like Mark Cuban. I'm like, look, it's past the sniff test. I'm going to invest in Apple. But sometimes the stock goes right down. Steve Jobs passes away. Apple hit with a lawsuit. Apple being investigated for being a monopoly by Congress, and then because humans are buying or selling the stock, and humans being highly emotional creatures, like, oh, I might lose some money. I better sell everything. So all these humans start selling it, thinking that they might lose it, and then it goes way down. But then the other humans who are a little more experienced at this and are cooler heads will be like, no, that is a headline. That's all it is. But I'm looking at Apple fundamentally. There's nothing wrong with it. Congress may very well be investigating them for antitrust laws, but there's nothing wrong with their company today. And their fundamentals are great. So I'm actually just going to buy more because now the stock is a discount. It's discounted 20%. You walk into a store and you see something really valuable at 20% less. Yeah, you're going to buy it. And that evens out the stock. Then over time, if it's a good company and you do the research I did, it's in a profitable sector, and you just keep adding money into it. And you're okay. Step 3, by following my process, I said, you now have the skill to make concentrated bets on companies with a very highly educated guess, right? I'm sorry, but one thing that really annoys me is people go, oh, I don't know about the stock market. It's just gambling. If you were to play fantasy football, to use an analogy, and you know all the teams in the NFL, are you just going to randomly pick a team? You want to win the fantasy football. Maybe you got some coworkers piled in here and there's $500 on the line. Are you just going to go with what your neighbor said, or are you actually going to do some homework? If you did any sort of homework at all, you're going to see that there's some NFL football teams that haven't been in the playoffs in like a decade. And there's some other NFL teams that have been in the playoffs consistently, and they have deep pockets and they're able to buy the hottest rookies. So is it really a complete unadulterated gamble when you pick which team might go to the Super Bowl or the playoffs? No, because you have so much evidence. The real problem is people won't take any sort of risk. Oh, it's gambling. I'm not even going to pick one football team on the fantasy football. Fine. You have now absolutely zero point zero chance. You're kind of guaranteed to lose that way. You know what I'm saying? Okay. Now, with my simple plan, about 8 years ago, I was able to identify that AI might be turned on, and it was like a year and a half ago. And I was able to identify with some pretty simple research that the gasoline that runs the AI engine is semiconductors. Within the semiconductor market, then all I did is did a little more research and say which ones are going to ramp up. What do the analysts say? And then it was obvious. It was like NVIDIA and Broadcom had the competitive advantage. So, okay, I'm going to take an educated guess. I'm going to put some money in there. The next thing I spotted and got into was Bitcoin. I didn't just jump into Bitcoin. I watched like 4 really long documentaries and I was like, what is this? How did this work? It really was mind bending. It took me a long time to figure out how it worked. But then I realized that this could replace the dollar. Read more about Bitcoin if you want to know more, but I was comfortable that I put enough money in that I felt I could lose and still be okay. And that paid off enormously for me. Knowing tech was the fastest growing sector was also the job that I was working in full time. So I had my ear to the ground of all the things that were going on, what company's doing what, who's doing what. So I knew who had the potential to break away, right? The fourth thing I did is I was super consistent. I've been consistent now for about a decade and I never stop investing. I don't let it pile up until there's a dip in the market and then dump it in. Why is that? Because I did my research and I saw that statistically, people who have their money in the market for long periods of time and just keep putting the same amount in every month or so, it's called dollar cost averaging, beat significantly people who hold on to a bunch of money and wait for some big dip and boom, and they get it in there. And then, yeah, they get a big ramp up, but they think they've succeeded. But what they don't understand is that time you've been waiting for a big, huge dip in the market is time you didn't have your money in there, making that percentage, boom, 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 month after month after month, adding to compound interest and then compounding upon itself. So you've been waiting, thinking you're gonna get this great deal in the dip. It doesn't pay out in the long run. Okay, so now step 5. It's been a decade or so since I got to my first $100,000. I've been constantly researching markets. This is only about an hour a day. I go to Yahoo Finance and I watch videos, and then I go to a subcategory of Yahoo Finance called Yahoo Finance Semiconductors. I do listen to some guys on YouTube, but for the most part, I gotta watch out for YouTube because there's a lot of clickbait and all they want you to do is click on it. So every video is like, the sky's falling, Nvidia's ready to crash. It's a lot of noise. The stock market itself has been around for a very long time. It started way before the crash of 1929. And during that time, as this graphic shows, there's been a tremendous amount of valleys. There's been the crash of 1929, the housing crisis of 2008, World War II. But if you were to draw a straight line from here to the top, you would have realized massive, incredible gains. All you had to do was not freak out when there's a dip. So I've been patient for 10 years. I've not freaked out when there's been dips because I play the aggressive game. If you're going to play the aggressive game, you have to understand the peaks and valleys will be dramatic, but the straight line is going to go up much faster than if you play it safe because you're too worried about losing your money. Wayne Gretzky said, I miss all the shots on goal that I do not take. So I want you to think about that. All the money that you may not be earning because you're just refusing to take any chances, or the stock market's scary, or your uncle said, oh, that's gambling, I wouldn't do it. You'll never get to financial independence on cash building alone. You just won't. So when you get to a spot where you have a lot saved up, you can take, let's say, $10,000, right? You can put it in something that is highly speculative, but with enough research, you should know there's a really good chance this could go to the moon, right? So that's where I'm at. So I'm taking some chances on some moonshots just this past year. If you think $10,000 is a lot of money to potentially lose, sure, it is. But you know what? You take a cruise to Europe once, you have the experience, you had a great time, you got to see the Sistine Chapel, you got to see the Colosseum and all that, and you come back a couple years later, you go to who knows what, Japan, and you go all through Japan, you do another cruise, there goes another $5,000. That $10,000 that you spent on those trips, I guarantee you it's 100% gone with absolutely 0.0 chance of you getting it back. It's not like the cruise is going to write you a refund check or the airline or the hotel. It's just completely gone. So if I put $10,000 into a stock, I'm not freaking crazy because it might be gone. There's a good chance I could quadruple or even 10x that money. And if it is gone, it's gone because it's only a small percentage of what I already have saved. Doesn't matter. It's worth the risk. So to make some easy math for you, $10,000 put in something that goes up 7,000% is, let me do the math here, $10,000 plus 7,000%. Well, that's $710,000. And if you think cryptos can't do that, Well, check out Solana, SOL. It's supposed something I'm looking as a potential sum to invest in. So if I did put $10,000 in and it did go up like it has in the past, which is no guarantee that it will continue to do that, but there's proof right there that you can make $700,000 for the equivalent of one cruise to Europe and one cruise to Japan. Just don't make the amateur mistake of putting every dollar you've ever made into something risky like this, because it could go down, but a small percentage of it is just fine, and that could really accelerate your growth. So if you don't mind, I'm going to take my eyes off the camera here and read my notes because I want to make sure I get everything. So first there was the acceleration period. This was from about 2017 to 2024. Now I already had my $100,000 at about 2017, but I knew I had to kick it into high gear, and I walked you through how I did that. Then was the income growth factor as well. So I had to invest in myself and do a career pivot and go from $50,000 to $150,000 a year, just so I had some cash to feed the beast. And the beast had to be a thoroughbred horse, right? Not some fat dairy cow. I need something that was fast, that was going to upscale my money very quickly. Then there was the investment return. So I did research, heavily research driven picks, and these all significantly outperform the standard market, which everyone says is, oh, it's really hard to beat. I don't know. It didn't seem that hard to me. Look at what Nancy Pelosi's done. You can beat the market. It's not damn near impossible. You just kind of have to do a little bit of homework. So here's some really important milestone moments that I typed out. When I got to 250,000, it felt like real progress. I was like, okay, I can really breathe deeply now. Then when I got to like 500K, I knew I was on the right track. Then shortly after that, a few more years went by and I finally got to true financial freedom. Right now, my honest thoughts are I could walk away, but it'd be cutting it pretty close. I've got to have what I have saved last from age 54, maybe even all the way up to age 94. I'm pretty healthy for my age. That's 40 years. So I'm still working to keep piling that up. So I'm going to read what I'm calling the real success formula, okay? Line by line. Here's the first one. The income maximization principle. I like the way that sounds. I wrote that. You must dramatically increase your earning power, okay? Next, the strategic investing approach. You have to have research performed that beats random diversification into an ETF, which is like 500 companies rolled into one stock. I have ETFs, but the big money for me has been in the independent companies. Think about the concentration advantage. Big bets on well-researched opportunities and well-researched sectors is just going to create wealth for you much faster. Next is the consistency factor. Never stop investing regardless of the market conditions, okay? Just keep putting it in like clockwork. Think of it as some sort of tax or car payment that you have to pay no matter what. It's just going in. It's not negotiable that some's going to go in. Next is the risk progression. So start safe. I kind of did that. I started pretty safe. I have lots of ETFs. I have diversification, but I slowly started branching out to taking more calculated, bigger risks. And that's when my wealth really started taking off. This leads us to my next bullet point, which is the time compression secret. The right strategy can achieve in 7 years what takes other people to do in 30 years if they're just piling up cash. And for me, this was key. The mindset evolution. Go from don't lose money to how can I accelerate my wealth building? That mind shift is going to help you accelerate things very, very quickly. Now, let's just say you got $200,000 like I did. Here's some common mistakes that are going to keep you at $100,000 forever. So don't make these mistakes, please. Mistake number one, lifestyle inflation after hitting 100K. This means people think they're rich, so they go start blowing through this money. They lose all knowledge of frugality if they ever even had it, and they just start buying more, bigger houses, sending the kids to private school, 2 or 3 cars in the garage, okay? Don't do that. Mistake number two is sticking with the so-called safe 6% returns when you could, with a little bit extra effort and research, just get 15% on your money. The difference between 6% and 15% over time is gargantuan. We're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars. Mistake number three, over diversification is safe, but you're going to get mediocre returns. You bet your money on 500 horses in the horse race. Some are going to win, some are going to lose, and you're going to get the average of that. But what if you put all that money on the top 2 or 3 that you knew, because you've been researching these thoroughbreds for a whole year, are the most likely to win the race? You're going to make way more money than betting on all 500 horses and getting the average. Okay. Mistake number 4, trying to time the market instead of staying consistent. Don't do that. Like clockwork, put it in your well-researched companies every month, set it, forget it. Mistake number 5, not investing in yourself to increase your earning power. This is probably one of the biggest mistakes I see people do. Oh, this is all I know. I only know how to do this job, and I'm not willing to go to school or change or do anything. It's fine. You're never going to make more than you make. You have to figure out how to make more money. I told you exactly how to do this, and you can do it if you want to. Number 6, being too conservative when you have a solid foundation. So if you have a lot of money, take a little bit off, break a little bit off that you're okay with losing, and see if you can get a moonshot. If you don't, then you lost 2 cruises to Europe and Japan. Next in my notes I've taken, I'm calling your next level action plan. Let me read them one for one. Month 1, research high income opportunities in your field or adjacent fields. Month 2, start investing in yourself. Courses, degrees, certifications. This is after you've identified the jobs that do what? You got it. Pay great, are in demand, and you already have a foundation to move into those positions. Month 3, you want to open investment accounts and start beginning your sector research. What do you want to invest in? Is it clean energy? Is it healthcare? Is it rocket science? Is it tech? You decide. Month 6, you want to make your first concentrated investment through your research. Find a company or a stock that has strong potential of going up, that all the analysts are saying is a good buy, and make sure you're confident and just put a little money in there until you get comfortable with and see what happens. Whatever you do, if it goes down, unless you have evidence that this whole entire company is going to go out of business or it's using antiquated technology or it's not competitive anymore, don't worry about headlines making it go up or down. Be consistent, hold your money in there, and just wait for the returns to come in. By year 1, you want to aim to increase your income by 50% while maintaining your frugal lifestyle. Both must happen here. And by year 2, you want to start taking calculated risks with about 10 to 20% of your portfolio to see if you can get a moonshot like Bitcoin or Nvidia or something like that. If you do this, I believe you could get to financial independence in as short as 5 years and as long as 10 years. So I want to leave you with a few calls to action, okay? Do this. Get out there and just freaking do it, okay? Here we go. The promise has been delivered. You now have the exact roadmap to take you from $100,000 to financial independence. Here's the reality check. This requires more risk and more work than safe investing advice. Here's the choice you have to make. Stay comfortable with slow progress or accelerating with calculated risks. In the next video, I'm going to reveal the specific stocks and sectors that I'm betting on for the next 5 years. These are things that I hope are going to usher me into retirement. So you want to be sure to subscribe so you don't miss it. And I'll see you later. Jamie out.